Welcome to Season 4 of the Bird Joy Podcast. Your hosts, Dexter Patterson and Jason Hall, are back with more birds, more bird joy, and plenty of laughs along the way. Each episode brings new stories, fun conversations, and a whole flock of good vibes. We're happy you're here. We really miss the homies, and we hope you enjoy this season. You ready? Let's go.
Welcome back to the Bird Joy Podcast. We have a fire guest for y'all today. Today's guest helps people rethink what it means to be a biologist and who belongs in nature spaces. We're joined by Liz Lopez, also known as Brown Girl Biologist. Liz is a versatile biologist, snake enthusiast, educator, and community builder whose work spans species protection, habitat monitoring, and science outreach. She is a proud member of Latino Outdoors and a powerful advocate for inclusive science and outdoor spaces. Liz has worked across California, my home state, from Arcata to San Diego, protecting threatened and endangered species, supporting complex permitting and compliance work, and helping people connect with wildlife in thoughtful and responsible ways. Whether she's in the field monitoring sensitive species or engaging communities through education, Liz brings care, clarity, and joy to everything she does. Liz, welcome to the Bird Joy Podcast.
Let's go.
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me on here. I was thrilled to be reached out to, and although I do mostly herps, I do love birds too, and I feel like that thing where they say the older you get, the more you love birds. That's definitely been true for me.
It's true.
What's that meme? Is that a yellow rump warbler?
Yeah. So you wake up and you're just looking at butterbutts. So
Life comes at you fast.
Oh, you have no idea. Every morning I'm like at my window and my partner, I'm like, get over here. There's something new out there. And so I got him all into it. You got to spread the nature love how you can.
It gets quick, man. I feel like all the generations after millennials, we have a gift. We have the awareness now of this, and we can go get it well before we retire, So that's really awesome. So take us back to the beginning, How did your interest in animals and science kind of first take shape? Everybody's got their origin story, so let's hear yours.
I've thought about this a lot because my family does not like going outdoors really. We tried to go camping and stuff when I was little, and one time we tried to do an RV trip, I was like, okay, we could do this, it's not tense. And we ended up going and parking the RV in my grandma's driveway instead. My parents were just like not 100% into it, But what it was, I think that my interest in science and biology originated. Well, my dad was a big factor in that. He's an engineer. He's born here, but his parents are from Mexico. Mm-hmm. So he just kind of got into something that was gonna put food on the table. But I think he would have been a biologist. So when I was growing up, he would always be taking me out to ponds. I don't think that this is technically illegal, but we'd catch tadpoles and bring them home and rear them in the garage. Yeah. So now I know I'm not supposed to do that, but it's all good. And he also had a background doing some landscaping stuff at the time. So he knew the names of all the ornamental plants in the neighborhood. So he would take me on nature walks, and we would go around and he would be like, this is an azalea. This is a crepe myrtle. So I started learning all these names of ornamental plants from him. And I think just the fact that everything theoretically had a name and had been seen multiple times, that just clicked something in me. And I wanted to know the names of everything. So that's where it sort of started.
You're one of those little kids that ask 8 million questions. What's that?
Oh, yeah, my dad would tell you. Oh, literally. He said that when I was little, I'd be like, what's that? What's that? And he's like, it was so annoying, but
Hey, look at you now.
Still asking, what's that?
Wait, what's that? Paying attention. As a Latina entering biology and environmental work, what did it feel like kind of navigating that space early in your career?
It was tough. I have kind of an interesting background. So I don't know. Are either of you consider yourselves Latino?
No, not me.
Okay. I like to say that Latinidad is, it's not a linear thing. It's kind of like a constellation. And so I grew up considering myself Hispanic or Latino. I now consider myself a Chicana, which is it's a little bit of a separate identity, mostly for people of Mexican descent born here in the United States. But I grew up in a very white community north of Sacramento. I already felt very othered my whole life up to going to college and starting this career in biology. So I think that actually kind of helped me be able to enter this field. I was already used to that feeling of being an outsider. And then in biology, I was still very much an outsider, and it felt normal to me literally until I finished my grad program, is when I was like, oh my gosh, like there are more Latinos that are, or Chicanos or whatever. There's like a broad spectrum of people on the Latinidad constellation and other people of color that are like me, having my identity in the sciences. It's a hard space, I think, for people of color to be in, being someone that was already used to being othered growing up, like as messed up as that is, it sort of helped me because I already was able to sort of find strength within myself to stand on my own. Yeah. But beyond that, like I feel like it's a good thing, but it's kind of a sad thing. Beyond that, I think that being a Chicana in the sciences, it's what people say about like that giving you a different perspective. Sure. I really do think, like, coming from this background that I came from and knowing nature in different ways outside of the westernized way of like, oh, I grew up going camping or I grew up birding and stuff like that, just kind of helped me be more observant and also more open to, like, I'm aware that I don't know everything and 100% open to learning it all. So I take a lot of pride within my identity and within my field.
Sure, that makes sense. And I Dexter and I've talked about this with other folks, but like you have this kind of journey of like feeling like you're the exception, and you go out into that space, and then being in that space and finding your place in that space actually helps you then understand your base, like your identity. Like it helped me connect with different parts of my Blackness being out in birding, right? Which is, not something I actually expected. So it's interesting to hear that as like, oh, my perspective belongs out here. Now that my perspective is out here in this space, it connects me better to who I am. Like that's really, really, really beautiful to hear.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it seems like you two also leading different BIPOC bird groups and stuff, being able to connect other people in that way and show them that they have a spot here.
Sure.
It's not reserved for like other people. You understand too, that it's just like a really beautiful thing. Yeah. You mentioned some other folks that you met kind of grad school. Like, who did you have some early mentors or people that like really kind of hammered that in for you of like, yeah, you're supposed to be here, homie? I had good mentors, but not really identity wise. So I think I'm trying to think. My mentors.
You were the mentor. You were the representation. You became the representation, huh?
Yeah. So that's just my experience. Like I know that people have had like, someone to look up to, or someone that's close to them, that's like a person of color that they're like, oh yeah, like if they did it, I could do it too. But I was just talking to my partner about this in the car. Like actually the reason I got on Instagram in the first place, because I was off of it for a long time, was because I was like, a lot of people that I've mentored in my past have told me that seeing someone like me succeeding was really important to them. And I'm like, how do I increase my reach? Because there's only so much that I could do one-on-one. So, but yeah, I did there. She wasn't really a mentor to me, but there was one person of color during my undergrad that was a microbiologist. And I always sort of looked at her from the sidelines. And I did tell her later, like, hey, I always sort of looked at you and said like, okay, this is another person of color who is able to make it. So I think I probably can too.
Love it so much. I will admit, when I saw that you are our guest and, I'm doing research and I was like, oh, snakes,
Yeah.
Snakes. I call them nope ropes. So I was like, okay, let me lean into this expertise a little bit, because snakes often trigger like fear responses in people. What are some of the biggest misconceptions you encounter? How do you help people move from fear to understanding, from like really appreciating these creatures?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. And I love this topic about the nope rope, or what is the other thing? The danger noodles. I hear that a lot. Yeah.
Danger noodle. That's a new one for me. I like that too. Yeah.
Oh, there's so many, but I guess like as a herpetologist, I'm hearing them all the time. So yeah, they're the best. I actually have like my soul snake right here next to me in my office. But your question, sorry, could you repeat the question again?
What are some of the biggest misconceptions you encounter, and how do you help people move from fear to understanding?
Okay, yeah. So I guess first, if you don't mind, I'll tell a little story kind of about how I got into this, because I grew up. Okay, sweet. Yay. I grew up in a household. I don't want to, how do you say, to like stereotype, but I come from a Mexican-American household, and there's a lot of fear around snakes in my culture. And I think a lot of it is actually tied to colonialism, which is something that I like to examine a lot just generally in my work. There was a snake, like, man, my mom and my grandma were out of there, forget about it. And so even though I grew up liking critters, I grew up not being really nervous around snakes. And when I started my job as a consultant, part of my job is to relocate snakes, just short distances, but if one's like in the way of work or something, non-venomous. And every time I would have to relocate a snake, I would get my gloves on and I'd go pick it up, and I would physically start shaking and my heart would start beating, because it's like, it's this thing you're supposed to be scared of,
Yeah.
So I have a good friend that I've worked with for many years, and I was telling him, like, man, I need to get over this. Like, I don't want to be having this fear, because it's part of my work. And also I like the snakes. I want them to stay out of the way of, out of harm's way. But how do I do that? And he was kind of joking. He was like, you should just get a snake and see how that goes. And I would never recommend this to anybody, but I did that. So yeah, I got my snake. His name is Poe. He's a Mexican black king snake. And he's been a really huge teacher to me, showing me the true nature of snakes, which isn't this aggressive animal that's going to chase you or that's out to get you. They're really, like, I like to say, sort of like land babies, they're very connected to the earth. They live their whole life on the earth. He's sweet. Like, sometimes I'll sing in my office.
Beautiful snake. I just Googled it. Sorry. We end up doing that. People that is a beautiful creature. My goodness.
Right.
Oh, it is beautiful.
Wow. And so that you mentioned that was your soul snake. Is that a specific kind of designation?
That's something that I just kind of make up to kind of say, he's someone that's really taught me a lot and helped me get over fear of his kind. And he was born in captivity. Like, that's not really his job, but I'm so grateful to, be able to be his caretaker, and that he was teaching me how to navigate other snakes of his species and other species, But as far as common misconceptions, I think it's kind of what you would expect. Like, a lot of people think that, they're aggressive, or they're always going to be defensive, or they're always going to be chasing after you, or there's some omen of evil. That's something that I get a lot too. And I think that the way I try to combat this is like, letting people know, like, hey, like, now, even though I'm seen as a snake person, this is like a very recent thing, and that could be you too. And I really think that if more people, so I do it through education a lot. Like, I show people, this is where they live. This is how you act around them. If a snake is getting defensive, give it its space. And it's our job to be able to ID them and be able to say, like, okay, I'm in this snake's territory. These are native animals for the most part, the ones that you'll see out in nature. They belong here. They're here far before my people were here, far before like most of our ancestors were. So they kind of have claim to this land. So it's our job to watch out for them and make sure that we're not hurting them. But yeah, I think exposure helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we fear what we don't understand. You mentioned that religious or like spiritual fear that people have of snakes. I've seen the same thing with owls, where some people think that
Yes.
owls are bad omens and all,
Yeah.
so there are some connections to a lot of things that maybe people don't understand or don't encounter that could lead to a feeling on so many different levels. So that's a nice bird and snake connection.
Oh yeah, but you have no idea. I've been thinking about owls all year long. I had an experience with a barn owl earlier this year that kind of, I feel like every year I have an obsession with like maybe a little bit different of an animal. And, being that there was a barn owl that was hurt on site. It was probably a young juvenile, probably a car strike on one of its first flights out, and I found it on site and stayed with it for a while and tried to make myself as unimposing as possible, but giving it shade while the rescue was coming. And like, man, I was like, they're pretty common, at least in California. I never really had that connection with them, but I was like, this is a really beautiful owl. And now every time I see one, I'm like, hi, brother, that one that I've helped, But yeah, it is, I do think a lot of it has to do with, at least with the snakes, with colonialism and the dichotomy of good and evil in the Catholic Church, which I was raised Catholic, so I think about that a lot. But in Mexican tradition, the owls will sometimes be an omen of death, and I just 100% don't see it like that.
Sure. Yeah, it's like that in a lot of cultures around the world for a lot of different creatures. But I think that's part of the journey we're all going to be on here, right? It's like really stripping some of those down and connecting people to the beauty. And I love how you flipped it of like, no, this is not something we should be afraid of. This is something we should take care of. Like, this is our responsibility. These snakes. It's a really, really beautiful way to think of it. And I think it's more powerful to combat than maybe the cultural stuff that we've had passed down in all of our families and so on in our community. So
yeah, I think that culture is a beautiful thing, and I love the stories and I love tradition, and theoretically I love hearing about like, oh yeah, snakes did XYZ. Like, there's so many snake myths out there and owl myths too. The way I always think of it, if someone's like, oh, like you saw an owl, that's a bad omen, I'm like, man, I see so many owls.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to,
and I see so many snakes. Like, if that was true, I would be screwed right now. Yeah. Do you all encounter that in your work too? Like, people
1000%. And I was like, well, I shouldn't be here then, right? Like, my life shouldn't be incredible,
because I've seen a lot of owls, homie. Like, it's similar with like vultures. And I know in Africa, it's an issue. Certain kinds of birds of prey, right? And it's the birds that are, the creatures that are in spaces and doing things that maybe we don't quite understand as humans. We don't value the part of that. And birds and snakes are connected inevitably, right? With a lot of different parts of the ecosystem, which is really cool. But in general, I've held snakes. I like snakes. Right. Had a ball python growing up. Right. It was my little brother's ball python there in Altadena, California. And her name was Queen Latifah. She was great.
That's amazing.
Right. But when people hear snake training, I think their brains go to these very extreme places of, I'll say some of the idiots you see on the internet doing idiotic stuff with venomous snakes. What does responsible snake education or snake training actually involve,
I think first and foremost, animal welfare. So we take really good care of our animals. And when I say we, it's a nonprofit that I work for on the side as a snake relocation instructor. They're called Save the Snakes. They're out of Rancho Cordova in California, which is near Sacramento. So just a small plug for them because they're doing really amazing work. And I wouldn't even mention them if they weren't. I think that something I've learned, especially from working with some people that I consider mentors at Save the Snakes, is putting the animal first. And I think that when people see that too, mirrored like, okay, this is an animal that I should be taking care of. So, we're not the people that are out there with the huge, gigantic snake showing you like, this is the biggest snake. And like the snake's exposed to to people over and over and over again. And, because snakes get tired. Like, people don't really realize that they're like any other animal. They need food, water, shelter, and they need rest too. So if my personal snakes, when I used to use them for education, I would notice like when they're out in the heat, even though they're cold-blooded animals and they need heat, she'd get tired after a while. So at Saving Snakes, we really like try to rotate out the snakes, make sure that we're not using them in their shed, making sure that if we're going to do anything like tube them for educational purposes, they only get tubed like, very infrequently. So I think that, from that perspective of the animal husbandry side, that's really important to do to honor the animals that we have the privilege of working with, but also to kind of like show people like, hey, yeah, this is how we treat the animals. So like, please treat them with that same amount of respect. And then as far as teaching people, I think just like making sure that everyone knows that they have a choice. We're not here to like force snakes down your throat. If you're going to decide that you don't like them, you're not going to like them, And
I'm going to judge them though. I'm just going to put it out there. But go ahead.
Maybe unofficially I judge them a little bit too. But then again, I have to take the mirror and put it on myself because I'm like, you were like shaking in your boots like, 6 years ago.
It's one thing to be afraid, anxious, just because you don't know, right? It's another thing to just outwardly dislike a creature for silly reasons, right? It's like Dexter and I were talking about people that don't like pileated woodpeckers. It's like, you're a psychopath. I'm not going to hang out with you then,
I just saw one for the first time yesterday.
Congratulations.
Oh, awesome.
Lifer alert.
Let's go.
I guess that they're not. I looked up because I was like, this must be super uncommon because I've been looking for one forever. And they're like, it's common to see. And I was like, well, not for me. So. But awesome. Anyways, also, why wouldn't you like them? But anyways.
I know.
You're like a dinosaur.
Jason said, psychopaths,
Yeah. Psychopaths. Yeah. But back to the snakes really quick, just on that, I think that one thing, this is just tangentially related, but one thing that I get a lot from sort of like, I don't know, your average kind of macho character is like, oh, like, you like snakes? Well, when I see one on my property, I kill them right away. And I know, I just like roll my eyes. There's not really any way of getting around, how do I approach this in a way that will be heard? Because in the end, I don't care what they think about me, but I want them to be able to see these snakes in a different light. And it's just kind of, but it is always like, really, like this little animal that it probably wasn't, I know for a fact it wasn't running towards you or trying to attack you. Maybe it was getting a little defensive or something, but your first thing is to kill it and then be proud of it. Like, it's sort of lame,
Yeah, that's a lot of lame. It could be a nope rope to you, but that don't mean you got to kill it, Go do some research.
I know. Or call me. I'll go get it for you.
Yeah, see, call Liz. Liz is here to help us all today. That was so good. See, now maybe I will not call them nope ropes anymore, Liz, because of you.
The yes rope.
Yes. Oh, wow. So Jason and I, we both work in the STEM field, and your work as a biologist kind of covers this wide range from snakes and amphibians to birds and plants. Can you describe what a biological monitor actually does for folks who might not know?
Yeah. Oh man, that's something I have a lot of experience in. We mostly regulate compliance on site. So say there is my company, I'm lucky I'm in a company that avoids taking on development projects. It's just kind of depressing and sort of goes against my ethics, I guess, but we are on other various projects. So it's usually, you could think of it as a construction site. And so it will be me getting on my hard hat and my safety vest and everything and heading on site, same time as the crews, usually like 6 or 7 a.m., giving an environmental training, going through, there's always, at least in California, we have pretty robust environmental law in California. So there'll be a number of different permits that we have to follow. So my job before going on site is looking at those permits, understanding what we're dealing with and what might come up on site, and also what species that are protected or not protected may be there. And then training crews on how to ID those species themselves, giving them all my numbers so that they know who to call if they show up. And then just spending a lot of time. A lot of it is honestly building relationships with the crews, to be honest, because if you don't have a good relationship with them, they're not going to want to work with you, and like they're not going to tell you if they do see something. Like I've been on sites before where I find out they've hidden the fact that they found a nest, or they didn't want to tell me that a snake came across because they're afraid it's going to shut down work or whatnot. So a lot of it is like we say, standing around and watching people dig holes. A lot of it is like that. And building relationships with the crews, talking to them, learning my scientific phrases in Spanish if I need to. In California, we have a lot of Spanish speakers. And then the rest of the time, I'm just sticking by whatever the most, where like ground moving is, or wherever the most impactful work might be. And honestly, just birding and sharpening my skills. Like, I guess for any listeners that are interested in getting into the consulting field or biomonitoring, you'll hear from a lot of people like, oh, it's boring. You're just standing around. And I think it's only as boring as you make it. Like if you decide to be bored, okay. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. Yeah, it's a choice.
It's on
like,
you.
Always, exactly.
Sure.
There's always something to learn. There's always something to look at. Bring your book out there. Bring your Merlin app, whatever. Like,
I love that.
There's something to learn.
Yeah, I love that. And, take advantage of the opportunity. And you're a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service approved biological monitor for the California red-legged frog. Is that correct?
Yeah. And, I think I sent you guys a bio that said that, and maybe another species. I've been approved for multiple now. I honestly need to go update that. But California red-legged frog was kind of my intro into herps and I would say one of my favorite animals, maybe the most beautiful animal in California. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just looking it up. Yeah, I was actually looking it up. But like, what is that? You mentioned like sometimes you got to stand by the backhoe digger and make sure that they're doing things correctly or observing what may be being displaced. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful creature.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Whether it's for the frog or for other creatures that you're, I find this fascinating that you are an approved biological monitor, right? Like that's dope. Like there's a formality to this. There's a training to it to advocate for these creatures. So what does that look like day to day outside of standing by holes, right? But like when you do see something happening, how do you address that?
Oh, if I was to see a red-legged frog on site that's in danger, man, I mean, you just have to go grab that frog and ask for permission later,
Yeah. Okay.
But usually the approval means that you're able to do something about it. I guess I'll start off with the approval. Well, you guys it's U.S. Fish and Wildlife, so you probably have certain approvals that you need to get for your jobs and stuff. But it just basically means, I guess for anyone that doesn't know, that you have to have a certain level of expertise and submit your resume to the Fish and Wildlife Services. So they say like, you can, you have these certain privileges on site to be able to work with this animal or relocate this animal if needed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am lucky that I actually haven't encountered a red-legged frog. I've encountered other animals on site that have had to relocate and stuff like that. But what you would do is safety first. You make eye contact with the operator and say, hey, I'm over here and I see something over there, like stop, So a lot of my job is like waving my arms and yelling. You kind of have to be able to, I'm pretty soft spoken, but I had to learn how to be kind of loud and also sort of stand my ground on stuff depending on how the crew is, you know? Yeah. And then usually going and, grabbing, like, no, this is where it comes important to like know the permits, because if you are able to through the permits just grab it, then fine. If it's in immediate danger, I usually would say make sure that it doesn't get killed, and then start making your phone calls and being like, hey, I had to touch this animal. So it just sort of depends on the specifics on site, but that's kind of what it would look like. And I have been in a situation before where I had to sort of go get the animal and make sure that it wasn't going to get crushed because it was in imminent danger, and then go let everybody know as soon, like, the second I could get into service. It could be a little high stress,
Yeah, and it sounds like that may, you got to have some good communication skills, right, with the different people that are there to do work, right, and maybe not, they're not there to look out for the little creatures. It sounds like that teaches you as you go, right, a little bit of conflict resolution maybe at times.
Oh, a lot of conflict resolution. Yeah, there's a whole spectrum of different crews that you'll work with. Like, people that do care about the animals, a lot of people that care about animals through hunting, which is like made me kind of have a new appreciation for, there's just like some middle room, people that are on the opposite end of the political spectrum too. It's really forced me to see people in different lights, be able to kind of pick out like, okay, there's good things and there's bad things. Overall, I could work with this person. There's some people that you can't, but it really like it's helpful if you already have the social skills, I suppose. Yeah. And I know a lot of us get into biology because we're kind of like, I like animals. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that only takes you so far,
I want frogs and birds and snakes. I don't want people.
Yeah. I had a similar experience to learning about how hunters and hunting organizations contribute to bird conservation and conservation as a whole, because they want to have birds that they can actually hunt. So they're investing millions and millions of dollars across the country to protect areas and different things. So I've had an experience where I had to learn that there can be a balance between hunting and conservation and birding. And, I got homies out there like Al, Christopher Kilgore, people that are out here. Chris literally he was hunting like all of November, and I've learned so much from him, and he cares about the land more than anybody. So it was kind of like this eye-opening experience for me as a birder when I started realizing that, yes, there is balance here, and these folks care about the land. Speaking of land, you not only are observing on land, but you've done stuff in the water, and you've used different tools and technologies like spatial technology, video imagery. How has that changed the way you understand ecosystems?
I think it's just given me like access to seeing them from all different perspectives. More of that kind of technology. It was stuff that I did during my undergrad and my grad program. So I'm a little far removed. Like I'm not sure really why, but the marine sciences, there seems to be a lot of funding for like spatial technology and like using a lot of GIS, which we do on the terrestrial side too. But for like when I was working on in a marine landscape ecology lab, and we were looking at like mapping where in time and space are these like owlibits or abalone. We don't really do that or in my work now, we don't really do that. So I guess. And then the underwater imagery stuff, that was pretty interesting. Just looking at miles and miles of sand for hours and hours. But yeah, it does kind of make you appreciate different ecosystems from different angles. One reason I think that there's not as huge of a consulting field for marine science stuff is because a lot of it's underwater and so hard to access. So it's been a privilege to be able to access that stuff, I don't want to sound, it's not that our technology in the aquatic systems like ponds and stuff that I work with now isn't sophisticated, but it is a little more like rudimentary, But yeah, but I find it interesting. Like I feel like wildlife ecologists are very crafty, like we'll figure out if there's not a way to do something, it's not going to
make a way.
Everybody grew up watching MacGyver. We're gonna make it happen with some bubble gum and a paperclip.
Yeah, exactly. The people that I am around, like we don't have like these big research grants like I was used to in undergrad or in grad school and stuff. So it's like, okay, like I'm thinking of this one thing, like one of my mentors, he's like, okay, we need to be able to survey the bottom of this pond, and it's a deep pond, and we want to use dip nets, which are these nets that you push along the bottom and you find tadpoles and stuff like that, or larvae is what he would want me to call them. So he found this paper where someone like built a big seine basically with skis on it to run the bottom of a pond. And he's like, all right, we're going to build one of these with skis. And so yeah, that's kind of like what the technology here is like. And we're always trying to find like the cheapest and easiest way to, and least invasive way for the animals to be tracking them and doing that kind of thing.
It sounds like we see all these wild reality TV shows. That would be a great idea for a show. It's like you have to do something. You have to observe something in nature. You have to not disturb it as best possible. You only get $500 in grant money. Go. That's the episode, right? It's like the only way you win is if you generate the data that you were targeting to generate, right? But the amount of ingenuity I know is probably really, really incredible. And I'm wondering, like, having had that experience kind of both in the grant spaces and the ecosystems you worked when you were in undergrad, grad school, or whatever, and then now coming into this space, right, where maybe the resources aren't there. Do you feel like your observation skills have to be different in those kinds of environments? Have working across those different ecosystems and those different funding pathways made you a better observer? Like, how does that kind of round out your experience, you know, in the field biology space?
I think it kind of changes the way that you think about whatever work you're wanting to do. Like if I am part of a small research group. We do research in the foothills on mostly turtles and red-legged frog. It's not like during undergrad, there was big grants or undergrad and grad school. There was usually money associated with the lab. So you're kind of like, okay, like if I want to do this, put in a budget proposal, can we fit it in there? And it's kind of, it's not guaranteed, but there's like bigger things that you can do. Or they already have equipment that you need or whatnot. So I'm noticing here, as someone that's not at a research institution, just kind of doing it on the side, you sort of look at the ecosystem and you're like, I want to do this. Like, what's the cheapest and easiest pathway there? I think that's a pretty simple answer. You'll start trying to get creative on how you're going to do this, or like, instead of like putting a transmitter on a frog or something, like what are other ways that we can sample? And a lot of it is just like, consistency and doing more observational stuff, which is valuable and fine. And you can do it without a PhD.
Yes.
Sure. Love that.
We touched on this a little bit earlier, but I kind of want to come back to your adaptability, teamwork, your people skills, your interpersonal skills as a whole in the work that you do. So you're working with clients, you're supervising, working with other biologists. How important is communication? How important is it to have empathy for other people's perspectives and things like that when it comes to conservation work?
It's everything. There's like this whole human aspect of conservation that I think people are just starting to talk about, I think someone might have written a paper, like I feel like I got that term from somewhere, probably from the Wildlife Society, somewhere in there. But it's something that me and my friends that are biologists think about a lot. Like what are the human aspects of conservation? Because when it comes down to it, there's all these different stakeholders. We think that we're trying to do the best thing for our interests. So-and-so thinks he's trying to do the best thing for the land, who's watching out for the animals. And so because the animals are awesome, they're doing their thing. They've made it through so much that we put them through, or that colonialism put them through too. Then like at this higher level, it's all these people fighting over like, should we protect them? And if we do, what's the best way? And like, no, that wasn't a good way. We should have done it this way and stuff, especially through consulting and having to work with people that might be more business minded or might be more concerned about like how to get their project through. You sort of have to be able to balance, I don't even want to say balance, because I think that maybe the balance is, I think that you need to really keep your integrity and make sure that you're doing 100% as best as you can for the animals. Also sort of be able to smooth over things and sort of explain why this is going to be the most beneficial thing, or why this is the path forward. And sometimes it's not, or usually it's not like, oh, because this animal needs protection. You need to be creative about figuring out how this will benefit the client. How do you explain it in that way?
Sure. And like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it sounds like you have some of that naturally. Maybe you develop those skills just as a person coming through life. But do you feel like institutions are really preparing people, like as they go out into field biology, to have those human to human conversations? Could we use more of that? Or is it just learn it on the job?
I think that the best way is always learning it on the job, but it's also the harder way. I know that I didn't, it's really funny in grad school. This one time there was one conversation that we had about it. We got together with some other grad students and they took us in this room and we're talking about marine science stuff, like things that people were comfortable with. And then I just remember one of the professors being like, it was more about science communication. And he was like, and now, we have all this research, but we need to figure out how to help people. And everyone kind of just like, everyone sort of just looks at each other and like is perplexed. And I'm like, man, you guys get out of your room,
Leave the lab.
Leave the lab, exactly. But because I'm lucky something that kind of has come naturally to me or been forced to develop over the years. I think that the best, if we're talking about universities preparing people, that's not easy to do. I think in the classroom, I think we need to be really pushing our students to be going to these professional meetings and push themselves out of their comfort zones and start talking to other scientists, I think is the first step, because then from there, obviously you're going to need to learn how to talk to people that have different perspectives than you. But that's something that I have a mentee right now at one of the state schools, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of pressure or like even knowledge of like, okay, there's these different professional societies or like even Latino Outdoors and stuff. I guess it doesn't have to be a professional society or your guys' groups, just getting out and kind of getting out of your comfort zone and learning to talk to a variety of people. I think that that's one of the more important things that you could do for the human side of conservation,
Yeah.
You're making this science communication professor very happy. I'll just tell you that.
That's what she did.
That's right. We are in the midst of a professional.
Wow.
Yeah, I teach science communication at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I always tell people when they ask me what I do, I say, my job is to get the future scientists and researchers of the world to get people to understand what they do and why it's important to them or their family or their communities. That's what I do. And then they're like, oh, we really need that.
Yeah. Right? And then it's like, what do we do?
Yeah. Like we've all been alive since 2020 and COVID. Like we need some science communication.
Yeah. So yes.
Yeah.
Music to my ears.
One more thing I'm going to say is that if you do have listeners or your students, and maybe you already give this advice, I think it's kind of maybe a somewhat unpopular opinion. But what I used to tell people when I was in grad school and like taking people to these science conferences and stuff, I'm like, not only do you guys need to talk to professionals, and even especially in the wildlife field, I know in California, if you were to like approach a professional and be like, as an undergrad or something, and say, hey, can I meet with you for 15 minutes just to talk about your work and stuff like that? I think 9 times out of 10, they're going to be super down to do that. So that A, and B, go out and don't go too crazy, but party a little bit with people. And I think that that's actually important because it's professional, but like a lot of the relationships that I've built in the sciences have like been built over having a drink or going out dancing or something like that. I think that we tend to see ourselves as just scientists. We're like, we need to stay professional, blah, blah, blah. It's important to maintain some level of that. The concept of professionality, I think, really gets in the way of us building relationships with each other, which is really important.
You deserve that joy. You deserve to have some fun, like, come on.
People deserve to be excited about what they're working on and to be able to share it with others. Like that's the part. It's like same thing in grad school. It was like, I don't feel like studying this gene structure for this turnip virus. You know what? Let's go to happy hour afterwards and we can talk about how silly this is. And it actually makes us better scientists in the lab because now we know each other and we can share information. And like, I'm wondering, so like you mentioned Latino Outdoors just there. Like, how did you get involved with them? Like, cause that's probably a great example of a bunch of really, really smart people that have a lot of really good technical skill sets, but coming together for a more collective mission to communicate science, to communicate the outdoors to folks. So like, what does that community mean to you and how did you get started there?
Oh, the community is so important to me. I'll go on and on about that. So I'll start about how I got involved. I was kind of trying to, so I moved away from home for like, I think a little over 10 years. And I decided to come back to Sacramento and was working on my career here, like very heads down for many years on my career. And then all of a sudden I was like, I miss working with students. I miss working in the community and just kind of like having, feeling like I have my finger on the pulse of things. And I ended up, for some reason, I was talking on the phone with an old friend from college, Lydia Jennings. She's this really badass indigenous soil scientist. And she was like, oh, if you wanted to get involved, you should check out Latino Outdoors. I met the founder, Jose Gonzalez, at a conference. He seems like a really cool guy. So I checked them out, and I was actually emailing the wrong people for a really long time. And finally, when another friend, another badass scientist, she was like, oh, you just should email this person directly. That's how I got in. And so I emailed, I emailed like someone that, kind of the right hand to the executive director, and she was like, oh yeah, easy. So I was like, oh man, like a whole year of trying to get on here, and now this is how I got on. And it was kind of in the midst of COVID, like around, I think 2021 or so, and the Sacramento area had gone a little dormant, and I just kind of came in and started being like, okay, well, I'm not sure what to do, so let's just start here, and I'll start by doing this and kind of teaching myself their processes and everything. That's how I got involved with them. And what it's meant for me, it's just been, I can't even really describe what it's meant for me, because I think that was really my first sort of step into, after so many years, like, over 10 years of being in the field, that was my first step into like, oh, like I really feel valuable in this space, and like, and also I could show people and have like a broader reach. Like, yeah. So I guess like personally, they've really like validated me, even though it's not super science based. Like the work that we do in Sacramento tended to be science based for a while, because that's just what me and some of my colleagues are interested in. But it validated me as like an activist and as just a person of color in the sciences. And then also just sort of like made me see like, okay, this is something that people really want. Like even when we plan like last minute events, people still show out. Like we'll have people that will come last minute and like, that have told me how it's helped them process different things in their life. And I just really, it's not technically an affinity space. People from all different backgrounds are welcome, but I think having a space that's primarily BIPOC, where we can learn together without judgment, is so important, and something that I wish that I had when I was getting into the outdoors.
100%. That's that. I always tell people, like, there's that phrase, you can see it, you can be it. That's cool. But if you can see it, be it, and do it, and then see people doing it that look like you, that takes it to a deeper level. And especially in the science space, I don't see a lot of Black and brown scientists. Growing up, I didn't see them. I'm starting to see folks out here now a lot more, and in the outdoor spaces, being a part of that solution with the birding club, just like Jason. Well, why is that representation matters so much, Liz? Because I know there are people out there that maybe haven't found that yet, that haven't reconnected, maybe in their community where they left or whatever it may be. Why is it so important to find that space?
I just think that if you see other people doing something, that other people that look like you doing something that you haven't done, it just makes it more possible for you. I know it was really like being an undergrad and not having really any other people of color in the science programs with me. And then there's that one professor that was a person of color, but I never got to learn under her. It's like, it's so isolating and feeling like you're having to do this all by yourself, and you could still do it, but when you enter one of those communities and start building those relationships, not only seeing other people and seeing the representation, but just knowing that you have this group of people behind you that like want you to succeed. And oftentimes I'm not kidding, like when you enter these communities, I'm sure when you do this in your BIPOC birding groups too, it's like, this is like, it's like becomes a big family, and people want to help each other, like, oh, you want to learn how to sample for red-legged frog, like that's something like, yeah, I'll take you on to do that, yeah.
I want to know.
Come to California and I'll show you.
Me.
Yeah. I just think it makes everything a lot more possible, and makes you realize like you're not alone. Like you have this powerful group behind you, and like when we're able to unite in that way and make each other feel stronger in that way, like man, we could really
make
things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Oh, that's amazing. I get sad sometimes when I live on the East Coast because half my family's still in SoCal, and like just hearing some of the work that happens out there, right, makes me so proud of just the state and everything y'all are doing. It is time, Liz, for one of our favorite things on this podcast, which is the lightning round. So we're going to hit you with some hard questions. Yes. Hard but fun questions. And we'll hit like 5 or 6 of them to wrap up here today. Are you ready?
I think so.
She's like, I don't know these dudes. All right, here we go. All right, we'll start. First one. And this is the first thing that comes to mind. Fieldwork boots or lab gear?
Fieldwork boots, definitely. Like a bunch of different pairs.
I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I want to. Snakes or salamanders?
Snakes. Obviously.
All right. Intertidal zones or forest floors?
Intertidal zones, my first love.
Field notebook or smartphone?
Unfortunately, smartphone, but I am trying to get better with the field notebook. I have it. It's like right there.
All right. Your most underrated species that you've ever worked with?
I always say this, the chorus frog or the Pacific chorus frog, or some people call them tree frog, but
okay.
You just see them a lot, but they're very awesome species. They're everywhere, so everyone's like, whatever. But
very loud.
Yeah, loud and beautiful.
Love it. All right, last one. One skill every field biologist needs.
Oh, back to what we were saying, interpersonal skills.
All right, good.
See, you survived.
Yeah, you did it. You did the right
I thought
thing.
you were going to be like, what's the species name for?
Oh, no. We're not on here. We're not on here
do you in
final
like that.
examinations. We're not. No.
Okay.
These are lightning round, joyful questions. But we do have, we kind of have one more kind of interesting question. What is your favorite animal right now? And this is not necessarily a lightning round question, but and why is that your favorite animal in this season of your life?
Okay. Man, that's a hard one because it's kind of tied between two. And I already told you about the barn owl. The northern flickers just came back into town a little bit ago. And why am I naming birds right now? It's not just...
That's right, because you're on the Birds Joy podcast. Listen, everybody got, you got them red-shafted northern flickers out there, and they are beautiful. So tell us about it. They're
just a species that I notice coming into my neighborhood every year, but I don't know why. Sometimes it takes me... It's like when a new album comes out and I have to wait a year for me to be able to absorb it. Well, it took me several years for the flickers, but I think just having them come in from out of town, I think that's, I'm like, oh, you came back here? That's awesome. Yeah, eat stuff in my backyard. They're so heavy bodied and look very, it's like the yellow-billed magpie, which we have over here too. They look almost whoa, you guys are here in Sac? You're beautiful. What are you doing here? The orange feathers, that chest, the spotting, and their call. Yeah. I love the flicker call. I get excited every time I hear it.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Liz, this has been incredible. I was, when Jay, we were putting together this season and he told me he was able to get you as a guest, I got really excited because we're trying to not only talk about birds and bird joy, but highlight STEM professionals all over that are just doing incredible work. And the work that you are doing is needed. It's so inspiring. It's so inspiring. So thank you for taking some time out of your day to educate our audience on the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I was thrilled to get that message from you guys, and it was so good to meet both of you. And also, I didn't mention it before, but for Latino Outdoors, if any of your listeners are interested, we are not just in California. We have chapters all over the country. So check out the website and see.
We just got ours a couple weeks ago here in Madison, Wisconsin.
I heard about that on the national.
I was kind of fired up. I shared it into our birding club group, and I was really fired up to see that. So yeah, we are one of the cities that has it now. So
really excited. In Philly too. We are also representing, and it's great to see these organizations. Wow, Liz, thank you so much. I'm actually now trying to figure out how we do a herping and birding walk when it gets warm again.
Yes,
that would be really, really dope.
Hey, we had another guest that we interviewed that talked about herping, and this tying in herping and birding. So I think we might be on to something here, Jay.
Think so.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm planning on doing a snake walk in probably in the spring over here. So I'll give you guys some tips and tricks once I figure out the best
so
way
we
to
can share it, so we can let the homies come out.
Yeah. Well,
Sounds
thank
good.
you so much, Liz. Everybody out there, make sure you're checking out Liz. Where can we find you again? It is at Brown Girl Biologist. So make sure you check out Liz and share this episode. Subscribe. They're not note ropes.
Yes, ropes. Yeah. And if anyone has questions about nope or yes ropes or consulting or anything that they think I could help with, I'm friendly. I don't bite, so feel free to send me a message.
Beautiful.
All right.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Liz, and take care.
Thank you, guys.